Okay, one thing you need to know about me is that I have a specific vibe. Cocky yet dorky protagonists fighting against the man with brash cartoony visuals, a rockin' soundtrack and the attitude that music can totally save the world, man. I also really like over-the-top character action games, and I was cursed with an innate sense of rhythm. Throw in a cute mascot character too and I'm happy. So you better believe that when Microsoft casually announced and then instantly released Hi-Fi Rush on a random Wednesday in January, I was absolutely paying attention. You play as Chai, voiced by Robbie Daymond, best known as Goro Akechi, or fan favourite Critical Role guest character Dorian. Chai is a wannabe rock star who gains a robot arm and gets fused with an MP3 player. However, the evil corporation that gave him the arm considers him a defect due to that MP3 player and wants him taken down. So with the help of a robot cat and a nerdy hacker girl, he chooses to fight back against the man and win his freedom. The gameplay is pure character action, where it's all about flashy combos against relentless hordes of enemies. The twist comes from Chai's accidental MP3 fusion, which means that he now views the world on the beat of whatever's playing, which translates into gameplay where landing your hits on beat nets you more damage, more ranking points, and more rewards at the end of a fight. Instantly, I knew this game was my vibe. There was a problem though. You see, this idea already kind of happened back in 2020, where No Straight Roads, a game I was legitimately hyped for, turned out to be a brilliant soundtrack without a good game backing it up. Oh, and Hi-Fi Rush was developed by Tango Gameworks, whose past works include Ghostwire Tokyo, a game that I consider to be my most disappointing game of last year for being a cool tech demo stretched out beyond its breaking point, and The Evil Within, a horror game that I gave up on 4 chapters in because all it made me feel was annoyed. Now I'm suddenly a little bit more wary. But you know what? It's on Game Pass. Might as well download it and see what happens. So what's the verdict? Let's break it down.
Alright, let me see what you got.
Instantly, it is easy to get a sense of what kind of game this is from the moment you load it up. Its brash, bold art style stands out with instantly memorable character designs and a refusal to be anything but colourful. It also doesn't waste any time setting up its tone. Chai is a confident idiot who thinks the dangerous situation he's found himself in is simply awesome. The editing of some of its cutscenes would make Edgar Wright envious, and the humour is self-referential without being smug or insincere. And all of this within the first 10 minutes of the game. It's a confident start, and the game then refuses to give up on that confidence. Combat is incredibly fun, with a variety of specific combos to play around with, all of which you can enhance by fighting to the music. It starts out simple, but then more enemy types are gradually introduced that require you to be a little more strategic, balancing out parrying and dodging on beat just as much as landing your combos. It's smooth too, feeling like some of the best of the genre like Bayonetta. The combat is also enhanced later with companion characters who add extra abilities designed to fight specific enemies, such as calling in Peppermint, who can use her stun gun to blast away electronic shields. They also play a part in progression, as their abilities can be used to open blocked routes. It's neat. And while we're talking about the companion characters, let's talk about the dialogue, which is written very specifically to be goofy Saturday morning fare. The main cast of characters you're fighting against the man with are solid. They're mostly archetypes, with the likes of Sass Machine Peppermint and Gentle Giant Macaron, but they're all played so perfectly by their actors that it's hard not to love them. The villains are no slouches either, all of whom are ludicrously over-the-top characters whose favourite food is the scenery. Especially Zanzo, who is a walking JoJo reference, who also arbitrarily quotes Dracula for no reason.
But enough talk! Have at you!
There are so many moments where I was playing this game with a stupid grin on my face. Aside from the combat feeling so satisfying to play around with, the world is full of strange and interesting places to wander around in. From museums to lava pits to running around a backstage area dressed like a shark. And no, you're not getting any contacts for that. It also did something that games often struggle with. It made me laugh. Constantly. Releasing in a week where Forspoken got a lot of flack for its awkwardly corporate cool banter that frequently stretches every quip to obnoxious breaking point, Hi-Fi Rush was the antithesis of it. It manages to walk the line between dorky and cool without plummeting into terrible at any point. There's a scene midway through the game that made me just lose it, but no spoilers due to its context. I want you to see it for yourself. Needless to say, it is a scene that perfectly understands the necessity of great comic timing, and once again, I cannot stop thinking about Edgar Wright. And naturally, a game so focused on rhythm has a rad soundtrack, with catchy rock tunes running throughout, and a few extra licensed additions that are just perfect. The first department head boss fight features a Flaming Lips track as its backing that I did not expect, but I found extremely welcome. And a later level is almost entirely backed by the Prodigy's Invaders Must Die, and ends with a boss fight soundtracked by Wolfgang Gartner's remix of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, and as a result, it is my favourite level in the entire game. No joke, I swear I was getting more S ranks than usual just because I was vibing to the music so much. It was the moment when everything came together beautifully. Hi-Fi Rush isn't the longest game, but it also feels like the perfect length for its concept. A game that comes in, tells you to fight the board of a major corporation with rhythm-based combat, refuses to elaborate, and then leaves. But for those worrying about longevity, its ranking system is already a solid reason to replay the game when it's all done, plus you're encouraged to revisit past levels due to suspicious locked doors, and due to a slow unlock system that provides new abilities, much like in other character action games. There is also the Rhythm Tower mode which unlocks at the end, that provides a nice challenge for anyone looking to really test their skills, which is likely to keep you sticking around for a while if you're into that. And to bring this all back around, we need to talk about just how good the visuals of this game are. It provides a superb Saturday morning cartoon vibe simply by looking exactly like a cartoon. This is a triumph for cell shading, something that evokes the Sly Coopers and Jet Set Radios of the past, but much smoother due to technical advancements. The cell shading is so good, in fact, that the game casually swings between in-engine visuals and standard 2D animation for cutscenes. And I don't just mean it switches into 2D animations for cutscenes and the scene back into gameplay is barely there, I mean it just doesn't stop blending the two. Quite frankly, they're just showing off.
So bad?
Sometimes the platforming sections can be a little wonky and a couple of levels mid-game drag on a little too long for my liking.
So tell me, be honest.
Hi-Fi Rush is a game that knows exactly what energy it wants to bring to the table and tosses out absolutely everything that doesn't achieve that goal. In a world where AAA publishers are determined to cram in everything focus testers tell them to, it's refreshing to play a game from a AAA publisher that just lays out, this is what I am, deal with it, and doesn't unnecessarily add a barren open world or pointless crafting mechanics or microtransactions or other fluff. Hi-Fi Rush is a game that revels in its own stupid premise and demands that you come along for the ride. Hi-Fi Rush is an absolute blast, and even better for how much of a surprise it actually was. I didn't expect to have a serious contender for Game of the Year land in my lap within the first month of the year, but it's even more surprising that it's a game that I didn't even know existed a month ago. Because that's the other thing that makes Hi-Fi Rush so refreshing. It's a game that didn't spend years hyping itself up or drag out its own presence before release, and I want more games to do this. Naturally, not every game can just shadow drop out of nowhere without a big attention-grabbing Microsoft conference to back it up, and indie games definitely do need a little more time to curate an audience and gain funding, but any game that can do this should do this. I found the presence of this game a million times more exciting than any flashy CGI trailer for a game set to release several years from now. A game listed for 2024 or worse, has no date at all attached to it, disappears from my attention instantly, while Hi-Fi Rush was a game that I kept glancing at on the Xbox app the following morning after it was announced, and eventually just caved into playing. And considering that Microsoft are the worst for this, it's especially surprising. After all, we're at Avowed, State of Decay 3, Contraband, Perfect Dark, the new Indiana Jones game, Everwild, Hellblade 2, or indeed any of the much hyped yet strangely absent games that Xbox have made the pillars of their marketing for the past few years. It's also just refreshing to not be disappointed by a Tango game. After finding The Evil Within borderline unplayable and Ghostwire Tokyo to be just painfully dull, for this game to be just so damn good is welcome. Between this and Gravity Rush, maybe horror game developers should just pivot into cartoony games a lot more often. So, Hi-Fi Rush is a game that defies every expectation. It came out of nowhere, demanded everyone's attention, did only what it needed to do, and redeemed its developer in the process. Its real-life story is a perfect mirror to its punk rock aesthetics. It has a dorky yet lovable cast, satisfying mechanics, endless replay value with its ranking system and post-game content, a perfect soundtrack, and most importantly, a robot cat named after the drum machine that all its sound effects come from, the Roland TR-808. I've stated in the past that the inside of my head is a combination of Control and Little Big Planet, and Hi-Fi Rush managed to capture the remaining third of what it's like in there. And if you may be able to tell from the limited contents of the bad section, I have little to complain about. This is a song that'll be stuck in my head for a good while. 808 out of 10. Thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed this quick little review of Hi-Fi Rush. Have you played it? If not, then you absolutely should. If you have, let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. And while you're at it, like and subscribe and all that stuff, and why not support the channel over on Patreon? I'd really appreciate the support. It would be wonderful. Once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you again very soon.